me.
I did.
You see, I see you.
I guess singing, eating, and bathing, these are all the very essential daily elements of my sister as she took care of my mother, our mother, lovely mother, Zuli. Caregiving became my sister's passion as she really devoted her entire life to taking care of my mother. And this was selfish in some ways to some people because they said you should be actually worried about your career or focusing on your career. And instead, my sister basically said there's one important thing in my life and in my life and my brother Greg's life, and that is making sure that Zuline's comfortable. So she gave up a very successful career in international internships. She was the founding director of the BU program. Before that, she had basically started the internship program at Emerson College. And when she phased out, she basically started a new program in international relations where she brought students from Europe and other places to LA. This allowed her to have her passion for helping students and placing them, but also being with our mother each and every day. My mother would come with us to the internship sites, and she was really a very vital part of the LA program. My sister adjusted her life to include my mother in that, and then eventually when my mother's needs became more dominant, she had to get that up completely. But throughout that entire period, her most important part was taking care of Zuline, the queen. My sister was very insistent each and every day that my mother have a bath and that she be ready for all of Zuline's activities, whether it's running around in the car with her or going on our little secret trips with me and sampling Wendy's and McDonald's, etc. So each day, Zuline would get up. We would usually put the sing-along on, and Janice would start with the bathing aspects. After that, she would always massage my mother's feet and rub wonderful fragrant lotion under arms and legs. And my mother, even though she couldn't speak, there was always that infectious smile and giggle. So they had a lot of nonverbal communication, which to me was very touching. And as I reflect back, a very, very important part of the gift my sister gave to my mother, and the gift my mother gave to my sister, and the gift they both gave to me. One thing that's become a trademark is all the pains like Diet Coke and all the pains like big gulps. And each and every day, the day would begin by Janice bringing in a big gulp, very, very packed full of ice cup that was, of course, full to the brim with Diet Coke. And Zuline would look up and smile and sip that Diet Coke right down to the last drop. And I think what was interesting is the pains always had communion. Zuline would have her Diet Coke, Janice would have her Diet Coke, and I would have my Diet Coke. So each and every day when I have Diet Coke, I'm still having communion with Zuline and Janice. You know, being in communication, I found it very interesting to see my mother, who in life, very, very talkative and very, very extroverted. But when the power of speech was taken away from her, what was exciting for me to see is that we would go to sing-alongs. And while she was having difficulty talking and sometimes not talking, as soon as those songs came on, she was remembering things like "Send the light, the very blessed light." And what that has shown is, when I did research, is that people with Alzheimer's and dementia, for whatever reason, do remember songs. And so I think music is a very, very important testament. Both Janice and I love that. We would take her religiously to the sing-alongs 2 or 3 times a week. And we could see her just so proud of her being able to sing "God Bless America" or whatever, because that was her way of communicating through words, when in regular conversation, she couldn't do that. Singing is key to happiness. When people say to me, gee, Emerson seems to be a part of your life, what I would say, it's been a part of my family's life. My sister Janice and Zuline would come to Emerson, and they were always good friends with John Zachris and also other presidents. Lee Pelton would always come over and give Janice a hug and talk about that radiant rainbow of hair colors that she would have. But I remember when she was caring for my mother, they would come to Boston. They were very good friends with Helen Rose, a trustee for 50 years, and they would go to clubs. They would go with some of the Arab students to places like Venue. They would be out until 2 a.m. Oftentimes, Zuline and Helen Rose would look at me and say, I know you've got to teach, but Janice will make sure that we got home. And what's interesting when I reflect about that is that Janice was an incredible caregiver. She was someone that I always admired because while I sometimes would think about projects, she would think about my mother. And when I reflect back, she really gave everything she could to make sure that Zuline the Queen at the very, very best. And that's something I'll always remember about my sister. Caring, compassionate, always giving, thinking of herself second. And what I think back in retrospect is that took a terrible toll on her own health. But when I used to bring that up, she would say it doesn't matter. If I had to do it all, I would do it the same way. So a tribute to my sister Janice that really epitomizes what love is all about.